The massive alien ship hung over New York City like a silver cloud. People stood in streets, on rooftops, and in windows, staring up with open mouths. After decades of looking to the stars and wondering, humanity finally had its answer. We were not alone. Commander Elena Vasquez watched the ship from the roof of the United Nations building. At 53, she had seen enough of humanity's wars to last several lifetimes. The scars on her face and the metal leg that replaced the one she lost in the water wars of 2139 were proof of that. "Commander, they're ready for you," said a young officer behind her. Elena nodded and turned away from the view. She straightened her uniform jacket, hiding a small wince as her old shoulder wound protested the movement. Inside the meeting room, 12 alien representatives sat around a large table. They looked nothing alike. Some had scales, others fur, and a few seemed made of living crystal. The only thing they shared was the look of mild disgust as Elena entered. "This is Earth's military representative?" asked a tall blue alien with 4 arms. "We expected someone younger." Elena smiled slightly. "Youth and strength aren't the same thing, Ambassador Krell." The aliens called themselves the Galactic Confederation, an alliance of species that had explored space for thousands of years. They had technologies humans had only dreamed of: instant healing, faster-than-light travel, and weapons that could destroy planets. "We have been watching your world," said a small green alien covered in feathers. "Your wars are primitive, brutal, wasteful." Elena didn't argue. Earth's history was filled with bloodshed. Then the meeting's tone changed suddenly when alarms began blaring. A hologram appeared in the center of the table showing a fleet of black thorn-shaped ships. "The Viridian Horde," gasped one of the aliens. "They've found this sector sooner than we predicted." Elena studied the hologram carefully. "Who are they?" "Conquerors," replied Krell. "They have destroyed or enslaved hundreds of worlds. We have fought them for centuries." The aliens began arguing among themselves in loud, frightened voices. Elena noticed something about the enemy ship's formation. "They're preparing for a flanking attack," she said quietly. The room went silent. "What did you say, human?" asked a crystal being. Elena pointed to the hologram. "See how they're spreading out? They'll surround your defense fleet there and here. Basic military tactics." The aliens stared at her, then at each other. "Perhaps the humans could be useful," said the feathered alien slowly. "Their barbaric history might give them insights we lack." "We need numbers," added another. "Even primitive soldiers are better than none." Elena's jaw tightened, but she kept her face calm. These advanced aliens had no idea what Earth's veterans could do. "The Confederation officially invites Earth to join our alliance," announced Krell. "Your people will fight alongside us against the Horde." "And if we refuse?" Elena asked. "Then your world stands alone when the Horde arrives. They are always hungry for new slaves," Elena nodded once. "Then we accept. But I have one condition. I choose which Earth soldiers join this fight." "You want more old damaged warriors like yourself?" Krell laughed. "As you wish. It makes little difference." As Elena left the meeting to make her calls, she allowed herself a small smile. The aliens thought they understood war because they had fought for centuries, but their battles had rules, traditions, and ceremony. Earth's veterans had fought in the dirt, the rain, and the blood. They had survived not by following rules but by breaking them when necessary. The Confederation's main battle station orbited Jupiter, like a metal star. Inside its massive war room, alien officers moved glowing markers across a 3D map of the solar system. They wore bright uniforms covered in metals and spoke in loud, confident voices. Elena Vasquez sat quietly in the corner watching. For 3 days she had listened to their plans. For 3 days she had seen the same mistakes repeated. "The Horde will approach from this vector," announced General Zex, a tall Tauri with golden skin. "We will meet them with our main fleet, here in perfect formation." "Perfect formations make perfect targets," Elena muttered. The room went silent. All eyes turned to her. "You have something to add, human?" General Zex asked coldly. Elena stood. Her metal leg made a soft whirring sound as she walked to the map. Your battle lines are too rigid. The Horde will cut through them like paper. We have fought this way for 10,000 years, said Admiral Voloth, whose gray skin rippled with anger. What would a primitive human know of space warfare? Elena pointed to several spots on the map. These asteroid fields provide cover. These radiation clouds blind sensors. Why fight in open space when you can choose better ground? War has rules, Commander, General Zek said. Honor demands we face our enemy directly. Elena didn't respond. They wouldn't understand until they saw real war for themselves. The shuttle, bay of the battle station, buzzed with activity as the first transport from Earth arrived. Elena waited as the doors opened, and 50 men and women walked out. They didn't march in perfect lines like the Confederation soldiers. Each moved in their own way. Some limped, others had mechanical parts, all had eyes that had seen too much. This is your elite force? Admiral Voloth asked with disgust. They are old, damaged. They are survivors, Elena replied simply. A tall black man with gray hair approached and saluted. Sergeant Major James Okoro reporting, Commander. Elena returned the salute. Welcome aboard, Sergeant Major. James looked around at the gleaming metal walls and the staring aliens. Quite the setup they have here. Very clean. Too clean, Elena agreed. They've never fought in the mud. James nodded, understanding instantly. During the Nigerian resource conflicts, he had led guerrilla fighters against forces with better weapons and 10 times their numbers. He had won by breaking every rule of conventional warfare. The rest of the veterans are ready when you call. Commander, James said. Special forces, guerrilla fighters, snipers, all the people who know how to win ugly. A loud alarm cut through their conversation. Red lights flashed across the station. The Horde has entered the system, announced a voice over the speakers. All ships to battle positions. Elena and James exchanged looks. It was happening sooner than expected. On the main view screen, the Confederation fleet formed a beautiful, symmetrical battle line. It looked impressive, like something from a military parade. The Viridian Horde ships appeared next, black, jagged vessels that moved like hungry predators. They didn't form lines. They spread out, probing for weaknesses. Your people should watch and learn how real warriors fight, General Zex told Elena proudly. She said nothing, just watched as the Horde ships suddenly accelerated and tore through the perfect Confederation formation. In minutes, 3 major Confederation vessels were crippled, their beautiful formations shattered. Impossible, shouted Admiral Voloth. They can't, they shouldn't. They didn't read your rulebook, James said quietly. As chaos erupted in the command center, Elena turned to her fellow human. Get our people ready. The real fighting starts now. 3 Confederation ships burned against the black of space. Their perfect formation had lasted less than 10 minutes against the Viridian Horde's attack. Now, the remaining Confederation vessels struggled to regroup, their commanders shouting, conflicting orders. This is Captain Wei Lin of Earth Squadron 1, came a calm voice over the comm system. We are approaching the battle zone. Request permission to engage. General Zex looked at Elena with narrowed eyes. Your ships weren't scheduled to join this battle. Yet here we are, Elena replied. On the view screen, 12 Earth ships appeared. They were smaller than the Confederation vessels and less beautiful, but heavily armed and heavily armored. Permission granted, Zex said reluctantly. But follow our battle protocol. Form up in standard Earth Squadron engaging, Captain Wei interrupted. Her ships immediately scattered in different directions. What are they doing? Admiral Voloth cried. They're breaking formation. Elena smiled slightly. Wei Lin had commanded mining ships during the lunar insurgency, fighting pirates in the narrow spaces between asteroid chunks. She knew how to use chaos to her advantage. On the screen, the Earth ships darted between debris from the destroyed Confederation vessels. They used the burning wreckage as cover, firing from unexpected angles at the Horde ships. This is dishonorable, shouted a Tauri officer. They hide and strike from shadow. They survive, Elena said simply. A Horde battleship targeted one of the Earth vessels. The human ship released a cloud of metallic particles that confused the enemy's targeting systems, then fired a barrage of missiles from point-blank range. The Horde ship's shields failed and it began to break apart. The battle continued for another hour. The Earth ships never stopped moving, never formed predictable patterns. They protected the remaining Confederation vessels while evacuating a nearby colony world that lay in the Horde's path. When it was over, the Horde had retreated, losing 7 ships. Earth Squadron had lost 2. The Confederation had lost 8 of their original 12. In the aftermath, Captain Wei Lin arrived at the battle station. She was a small woman with short gray hair and a burn scar across her neck from an old battle. She walked with the easy confidence of someone who had faced death many times. "Captain, your tactics were..." General Zex struggled to find the right word. "Effective," Elena finished for him. Wei nodded to Elena. "We did what needed doing, Commander." "You hid behind debris," Admiral Voloth accused. "You used sensor-confusing countermeasures. There is no honor in such fighting." Wei looked at the Admiral with tired eyes. "With respect, sir, there is no honor in war. There is only winning or dying." The room fell silent. The concept seemed to shock the Confederation officers deeply. Later, Elena and Wei walked together along a quiet corridor of the station. "The colony evacuation was well done," Elena said. Wei shrugged. "We've had practice. During the lunar conflicts, we evacuated 16 settlements under fire. The Confederation leaders are meeting now," Elena told her. "Your squadron changed some minds today." "Not enough, I think," Wei replied. "They still believe war should be fought like a chess game, with both sides following the same rules." Elena stopped at a viewport and looked out at the stars. "We need to change that, and quickly. The next Horde attack will be worse." "What do you need from me, Commander?" "I'm forming a special task force. People who can teach the Confederation a different way to fight." Elena turned to face the captain. "I need veterans who understand that survival matters more than ceremony." Wei smiled slightly. "I know just the people." As they talked, a Horde scout ship watched the battle station from the shadow of a distant moon, gathering information for the next attack. The barren moon had no name, just a number in the Confederation database. Its gray, dusty surface made Elena think of Afghanistan, where she had fought her first war decades ago. It felt right for what they needed to do. "Irregular Operations Training Base," she said, looking at the collection of simple buildings they had set up. "Not pretty, but it will work." Behind her, 30 Confederation aliens stood in perfectly straight lines. They had been selected from thousands of volunteers after Elena's request for those willing to learn a new way of war had spread through the Confederation forces. Some came from curiosity, others from desperation after seeing their fleets destroyed. Facing them were 20 human veterans, each a specialist in some form of combat that the Confederation considered improper or dishonorable. "Attention," called Sergeant Major Okoro. The aliens snapped to an even more rigid position. At ease. The aliens looked confused. The concept of "at ease" didn't exist in their military tradition. "It means relax a little," said Anna Patel, stepping forward. At 45, she was one of the younger human veterans. The tattoo on her neck marked her as former Marine Special Forces. "You're going to need to be flexible for what comes next." Anna pointed to a pile of metal scraps. "Today's first lesson, making something from nothing." A tall, four-armed alien stepped forward. "Pardon, Instructor Patel, but we have fabricators. For equipment, we don't need to make things." Anna smiled. "And when your fabricator is destroyed? When your supply lines are cut? When your fancy gun breaks?" She picked up a piece of metal pipe. "During the Singapore siege, I held off 12 enemies with a homemade shotgun and explosives I made from cleaning supplies." The aliens whispered, among themselves, clearly disturbed. Across the training ground, Marcel Dubois, a former French Foreign Legion soldier, was showing another group how to fight with damaged equipment. "Your helmet computer is broken," he told a crystal-bodied alien. "Your targeting system is offline. Your gun has 1 shot left. Now what do you do?" Request extraction and replacement equipment, the alien answered promptly. Marcel laughed. And if no extraction comes? If no replacement exists? He tapped his artificial eye. I fought blind for 3 days when my unit was cut off in the Amazon War. I learned to use my ears, to feel vibrations through the ground. The alien had no answer. In another area, Commander Elena met with the Confederation observers who watched with growing concern. This is not warfare, protested a Tauri general. You're teaching them to scavenge, to improvise, to fight without proper support. I'm teaching them to survive, Elena corrected. The Horde doesn't care about honor when they're slaughtering your people. The general turned away. Some traditions should not be broken. Traditions won't save your worlds, Elena said quietly. As the day ended, Elena walked the perimeter of the base. She found a young Voloth alien practicing with a makeshift weapon, trying to hit a target without using the targeting computer she had always relied on. Why did you volunteer? Elena asked her. The Voloth looked up. My home world was taken by the Horde last year. Our fleet formed perfect battle lines just as tradition required. She threw her improvised spear, hitting the target dead center. Everyone I loved died perfectly. Elena nodded, understanding. Change was coming, one soldier at a time. In orbit above them, a message arrived from Confederation High Command. The Horde had launched a massive new offensive. Multiple worlds were under attack. The situation was critical. How much time do we have? Elena asked the communications officer. None, Commander. We're needed now. Elena looked at her half-trained force. Then we'll have to learn the rest in battle. The news spread quickly through the Confederation. 3 major defense fleets destroyed, 5 worlds under direct attack, and the main Horde armada pushing toward the core systems. In the command center, alien leaders argued loudly over failing strategies. We must gather all remaining ships for one final stand, insisted Admiral Voloth. No, Elena said, entering the room. That's exactly what they expect. General Zex turned to her. The situation is beyond your understanding, human. This is the largest Horde offensive in 500 years. Elena placed a data chip on the table. A hologram appeared showing a swirling cloud of gas and rock. The Carinae Nebula, she said. The Horde must pass through it to reach your core worlds. We know this, Zex said impatiently. Then you know it's a perfect place for an ambush. Elena zoomed in on the map. Radiation storms, asteroid fields, narrow passages. We don't need to meet their main force in open space. An ambush is going to save your civilization, Elena finished firmly. I'm activating Operation Thermopylae. You named a battle plan without council approval? Admiral Voloth was shocked. We don't have time for committees, Elena replied. She activated her comm unit. Colonel Hayes, are your teams in position? Ready and waiting, Commander, came the reply. The council members exchanged worried looks. They hadn't authorized any deployments. Who is this Colonel Hayes? Asked Zex. Elena's face softened briefly. Thomas Hayes, former Army Ranger. He held the Himalayan Pass with 30 soldiers against 2,000 enemies during the water wars. If anyone knows how to create a choke point defense, it's him. Inside the Carinae Nebula, Colonel Thomas Hayes floated in his command pod, surrounded by holographic displays showing his forces, a mix of human ships and the aliens who had trained at the irregular operations base. They were positioned throughout the nebula, hidden behind asteroids within radiation clouds and along narrow corridors. Remember, he told his troops, we're not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We just need to hold them here for 3 days. A young Voloth officer, the same one Elena had spoken with on the training moon, asked, what happens in 3 days? Thomas smiled. That's when the second part of the commander's plan begins. Sensors lit up as the first Horde ships entered the nebula. There were hundreds of them, perhaps thousands. Stay hidden, Thomas ordered. Let them come deeper. The Horde ships moved in their standard formation, a wide front with heavy vessels in the center. They expected to find a Confederation battle line waiting for them, as always before. Instead, they found emptiness. "Now," Thomas said quietly, when the enemy reached the perfect position. From dozens of hiding places, his forces attacked. Missiles struck from impossible angles. Mines detonated in seemingly empty space. Electronic warfare pods scrambled Horde communications. The Horde commanders tried to form a defense circle, but Thomas's forces hit and disappeared back into the nebula's cover. When the Horde sent ships to pursue, they wandered into killing zones where multiple human vessels waited. On his command ship, Thomas received damage reports. They were taking losses, but the Horde was losing ships at 3 times their rate. More importantly, the enemy was stuck, unable to push forward or retreat without suffering more casualties. "They're trying to find a pattern in our attacks," Thomas told his officers. "Make sure there isn't one." For hours, the battle raged across the nebula. Human veterans used every trick they had learned in Earth's wars: feints, ambushes, false retreats that led into traps. "Day 1 almost complete," Thomas reported to Elena. "We're bloodied but holding." "2 more days," Elena replied. "That's all we need." As Thomas ended the transmission, a massive explosion rocked his ship. A Horde battlecruiser had found them. While Colonel Hayes and his forces held the Horde at the Carinae Nebula, Commander Elena Vasquez gathered a very different kind of team on her command ship. 20 small vessels were docked in the launch bay, each barely large enough for 4 people. "This is madness," General Zek said, watching the preparations. "These tiny ships cannot fight the Horde." "They're not meant to fight," Elena replied. "They're meant to infiltrate." The strike teams were an unusual mix: human special forces veterans, paired with the most adaptable Confederation soldiers. They dressed not in uniforms but in plain dark clothing that would blend with shadows. Major Leah Cohen checked her equipment one last time. At 48, the former Israeli Defense Forces operative had spent decades in covert operations. Her team included a Tari communications expert, a Voloth engineer, and James Okoro. "You understand the mission?" Elena asked her. Leah nodded. "While the Horde is focused on the Nebula battle, we slip behind their lines, target their supply depots, communication hubs, and command centers." "The Horde has never faced this kind of warfare," Elena said. "They expect enemies to confront them directly. They won't be looking for shadows." "We've been the shadows for a long time," Leah replied with a small smile. The 20 ships launched quietly, using minimal power to avoid detection. They scattered in different directions, each with a specific target. Leah's team approached a massive Horde supply station. The black, thorn-shaped structure orbited a dead moon, its surface bristling with weapons that pointed outward, searching for enemy fleets. "They're not looking for anything this small," James whispered as their tiny craft drifted toward a maintenance hatch. The Voloth engineer, Mira, worked quickly to bypass the security systems. As the hatch opened, James gave her an approving nod. During their training, Mira had been the fastest learner among the Confederation soldiers. "Remember," Leah told them as they slipped inside, "we don't need to destroy the entire station, just the fuel processing center." They moved through dark corridors, avoiding Horde patrols. The Tari Call used a device to scramble nearby monitoring systems. When they reached the fuel center, Mira studied the equipment. "If we overload these 3 junctions, the reaction will spread through the entire fuel supply." "How big will the explosion be?" James asked. "Big enough to cripple the station, not big enough to destroy it completely," Mira answered, just as the commander ordered. Leah placed small charges at the points Mira indicated. They set the timer for 30 minutes, enough time to reach their ship and get clear. As they turned to leave, they found themselves facing a Horde commander and 4 guards. "Intruders," the commander hissed through a translator. "How did you get past our defenses?" Without hesitation, James threw a flashbang device. In the moment of confusion, Leah and Call attacked from opposite sides. The fight was brief and silent, exactly as they had practiced. When it was over, Leah noticed something on the commander's uniform. A data chip. "Command codes," she realized. "Taking it. This wasn't in our mission, but the commander will want to see this," James agreed. Across Horde territory, similar scenes played out. Supply stations lost power. Communication hubs went silent. Weapon factories exploded. The Horde focused on the massive battle at the nebula, didn't realize they were being attacked from within until it was too late. On the Confederation command ship, Elena received reports from each team. Most had succeeded with minimal losses. The Horde is pulling ships from the nebula, an officer reported. Their supply lines are disrupted. And we have something else, Elena said, holding up the data chip Leah's team had recovered. The complete Horde command structure, their leadership locations, security protocols, communication codes. For the first time since the war began, the Confederation leaders looked at Elena and her veterans with genuine respect. How did you know this would work? Admiral Voloth asked quietly. Because, Elena replied, when you can't win by strength alone, you find another way. That's what Earth taught us. 1 month after Operation Thermopylae, the main Confederation fleet gathered for a ceremony aboard their largest vessel. The massive hull glittered with light reflecting off polished surfaces and ceremonial armor. For the first time, human veterans stood among the Confederation's decorated warriors. Elena watched from the side as Supreme Admiral Zorax of the Tauri approached the center platform. The tall, golden-skinned alien looked different now. His perfect uniform bore scorch marks he had chosen not to repair, and a healing wound crossed his face. He had joined Colonel Hayes in the final days of the Nebula battle when his flagship was damaged. Warriors of the Confederation, Zorax began, his voice carrying through the hall. For centuries we have fought the Viridian Horde according to our traditions. We formed our lines. We followed our battle codes. And we were losing. Oh, murmur passed through the crowd. Such an admission would have been unthinkable before. Then came the humans. Zorax gestured toward Elena and the Earth veterans. When we first saw them, we saw only damaged bodies and outdated equipment. We did not understand that their scars represented something we lacked. Survival against all odds. Colonel Hayes stood at attention, his weathered face showing no emotion. Beside him, Anna Patel and Marcel Dubois exchanged quick glances. Captain Wei Lin nodded slightly. The Battle of Carinae Nebula will be studied for generations, Zorax continued. As will the shadow operations that crippled the Horde from within. But most importantly, we will study the humans themselves, who taught us that war is not a ceremony to be performed, but a struggle to be won. Zorax descended from the platform and approached Elena. In his hands he carried a ceremonial weapon, a curved blade of shimmering metal. Commander Elena Vasquez, he said formally. The High Council has created a new position, War Master of the Confederation. We ask you to accept this role and continue teaching us your ways. Elena stepped forward. The room was silent as she looked at the blade, then at Zorax. I accept, she said simply. But not for the honor. For survival. Zorax nodded, understanding now what he hadn't before. Later, as the ceremony ended, Elena found herself surrounded by young Confederation officers. They no longer looked at her with disgust or pity for her age and scars. Instead, they watched her with respect, even awe. War Master, a young Tauri officer said hesitantly, would you tell us about Earth's wars? We wish to learn. Before Elena could answer, a message arrived. The Viridian Horde had sent representatives requesting peace talks. They've never asked for peace before, Zorax said, stunned. In all our history, they have only conquered or been temporarily pushed back. Elena read the message carefully. They have one condition. They want human representatives at the negotiations. Why? Asked Admiral Voloth. Because, Elena explained, enemies can respect each other in ways allies sometimes don't. The Horde recognizes what we did. We didn't just fight them, we changed the rules of the game. As Elena walked away to prepare for the peace talks, she noticed something new in the Confederation hallways. Young alien officers were sitting with human veterans, listening intently as the humans shared their experiences. We don't fight as we do because we love war, she overheard Marcel telling them. We fight this way because we have learned its cost. For the first time, Elena allowed herself a full smile. The hardest battle, changing how an ancient civilization thought about warfare, had finally been won. 1 year after the peace treaty with the Viridian Horde, Mars became home to the Confederation's new military academy. Unlike the gleaming, perfect structures of traditional Confederation architecture, the academy was built to be practical. Underground training facilities, simulated environment chambers, and simple barracks. Elena walked through the main hall, her new uniform bearing the insignia of War Master. The metal leg that had once drawn stares of pity from aliens now garnered looks of respect. Every limp was a lesson learned. The first graduating class, Colonel Hayes said, joining her. He gestured to the training field where 500 students, a mix of all Confederation species and humans, were completing their final exercises. I never thought I'd see a Viridian training alongside a Tauri, Elena remarked, watching a tall, green-skinned figure helping a golden-skinned cadet across an obstacle course. After the peace treaty, a small group of Viridian youth had asked to join the academy. To learn the ways that defeated us, their leader had explained. In one training room, Sergeant Major Okoro was teaching jungle warfare to a group of crystal-bodied aliens. Your natural armor is strong, he told them, but in dense vegetation, it makes you visible. Sometimes strength must be hidden to be effective. Nearby, an elderly Vietnamese veteran named Min was showing Tauri officers guerrilla tactics. My grandmother taught me these methods, he explained. Her grandmother taught her. Sometimes the oldest knowledge is the most valuable. War Master, a voice called. Elena turned to see Admiral Voloth approaching. Like many Confederation officers, he had changed over the past year. The perfect uniform was gone, replaced by practical clothing that allowed for easier movement. This council is ready for your report, he said. Elena nodded and followed him to a simple meeting room. The Confederation leaders waited inside, including Supreme Admiral Zorax and representatives from all member species. War Master Vasquez, Zorax began, tell us your assessment of our readiness. Elena activated a holographic display. We've established defense networks using the Nebula strategy across 12 key sectors. Our special operations teams can deploy to any Confederation world within hours. Most importantly, we've begun integration of veterans' knowledge into standard training. And your recommendation for the future? Asked a Voloth council member. Continue learning from each other, Elena said simply. Our ways of war were shaped by Earth's harsh history. Your technology and resources can make those methods even more effective. As the meeting ended, Elena walked to a quiet garden built on the academy grounds. Stone monuments bore the names of those lost in the war with the Horde. Human and alien names stood side by side. A young Viridian cadet was studying one of the stones. He turned as Elena approached. War Master, he said respectfully. May I ask a question? Of course. Why do humans honor defeats alongside victories? He gestured to names from battles lost. On my world, we only celebrate success. Elena touched a stone etched with Battle of New Jakarta, where she had lost her leg. Because defeat is often the best teacher, she explained. Every scar, every loss, every retreat taught us something we needed to survive the next battle. We remember them not as failures, but as lessons paid for in blood. The cadet considered this. My people have never lost until we faced humans. Perhaps this is why we never learned as you did. Elena smiled gently. Then that defeat may be the most valuable gift you ever received. As the sun set over the Martian landscape, Elena watched new cadets practicing by starlight. Human veterans worked alongside alien instructors, each learning from the other. The Confederation had thought they knew battle until they met Earth's veterans. Now, together, they were learning something even more important: how to create a peace worth fighting for.